Yo. And welcome to episode 16 of RaiderZone Podcast. As we took a 1 week hiatus, we're back in action here on Microsoft Teams. Just myself, Will Brianza, and Jacob Buter tonight as we have a thin group. A lot of people doing a lot of things. Obviously, we're at that halfway point. Things are getting tough in class, especially if you have a half semester class. It's really tough right now. You're getting into your finals. So just a little thin right now, but hey. We're two guys that love sports, and we're gonna bring it passionate and a lot of good information to you guys tonight as we talk about a lot of sports and a little bit of each. Not a lot going on right now. You know, we're in the in between. You know, basketball. It's still in the middle of the season, early middle season. NFL obviously, off season will be starting in full swing here soon as we have a couple things to talk about. And then baseball, it's spring training. You get a little couple topics here, but the big one is college basketball. We'll get into that as next week's the big week. That's when everything starts, that second week of March. Second week of March. Man, I'm already wishing the semester away. That second week of March is when all the action starts, conference tournaments. Then you get into Selection Sunday. You get into the March Madness. So we're getting into the big things for basketball. But where we're going to start today is where we start most weeks, I feel like, and that is with the MLB. So, like I said, spring training is underway. We're about 2 to 5 games in, depending on which team you're talking about. Some have played doubleheaders. Some have played every day since spring training starting, and some haven't. But one thing I've noticed is we have seen some players in new threads. Some look really good, and some of those to note: Lindor in the blue and orange, Arenado in the St. Louis Cardinals jersey, Trevor Bauer doing what he usually does, which is striking people out in that Dodgers blue now, and then George Springer wearing the Blue Jays jersey, just to name a few. So, Jacob, I'm going to ask you, which is your favorite look so far? I have a feeling we might agree on this one. But who are you liking in their new threads?
You know, Will, I mean, they all look very different, and it's just weird to see, especially Arenado for me, just because he was in Colorado his whole entire career, and just to see him in the St. Louis threads, that's weird too. George Springer too. But really, I mean, Francisco Lindor just in the Mets threads, it's just exciting, even though he's not in Cleveland anymore. It's just like, that whole entire culture has just changed in New York before he's even played a regular season game now, which is just crazy. Because the way I look at it, Arenado and Bauer, yeah, those are really big names, and they're going to be good for their new teams, and they're in those new threads, so it looks weird there too. But the Cardinals and the Dodgers, they've already been good for a while. And then the Blue Jays, I mean, George Springer is a huge addition, but he's not on Francisco Lindor's atmosphere, platform, whatever the heck you want to call it. But really, Francisco Lindor, he's just going to change the Mets, and I'm just getting that vibe from seeing him in these Mets uniforms. And we have to call him Francisco now, too. Can't call him Frankie, because apparently he thinks Cleveland fans were a little bit lazy calling him Frankie towards the end of his run. So, Francisco Lindor, he's already changed the Mets culture before they've even played a game. And I know they made the World Series a couple years ago, so it's not like they've been terrible for the past couple decades or so. But it just feels like the Mets are going to go on a sustained run of success now that he's with the Mets. And hopefully, if you're a Mets fan, that he stays with the Mets for a very long time and really just continues to change the ways there in New York.
Yeah, and I agree. Another name I should have thrown on here is Snell in the Padres jersey, but we didn't see that till this afternoon, which the script was already made. I mean, he looked in prime form as well, looking good in that. I don't even know what color to call it, that antique white or that like dirty.
Yeah.
I like it, but Snell looked good. But I'm going Lindor as well. I agree. It's really weird not seeing a Rockies jersey on Nolan, but Lindor, I thought he always looked good on the field in Cleveland, but I don't know if I've ever seen someone in a Mets uniform with that much swag. With the blue hair, walking out in the field with obviously the high socks that he always has, just the accessories on his arm, and then the blue and orange Mets surrounding on the white pinstripe jersey. I can't remember the last time. Maybe Jose Reyes was the last person to have this much swag in a Mets uniform. But Lindor, he's changing that culture. You're 100% correct. Steve Cohen, it must be nice to have an owner that likes to spend money, and he's doing it well. I'm jumping on the bandwagon now before it's called a front runner or anything. I'm a Mets fan. Obviously, I love my Indians through and through, but as far as National League goes, I'm going to root for the Mets this season, maybe a little bit of the Padres just because I'm tired of seeing Dodgers, Yankees always at the top. So as far as National League goes, I'm hoping the Dodgers get dethroned by Mets or Padres, but really hoping the Mets because I love Lindor and I love the swagger he's bringing to really a big market. It's weird to talk about a big market team in New York that hasn't spent money, but now they're feeling like a big market team when he walks on the field alone. So I'd love to see it for the city of, not for the city of New York, but for the Mets of New York because they always seem to be the little brother to the Yankees, you know?
Yeah, and it's just very hard to root against Francisco Lindor, I feel like, too, especially out of these guys. Like, I mean, really, Nolan Arenado seems like a good guy. Trevor Bauer's obviously a good guy, and George Springer, too. But Frankie Lindor, I mean, he just did so much for the city of Cleveland, and he already appears to be doing the same thing here in New York. He's just got that great personality, too, so it's just so hard to root against him. And like how you said, that swagger he has on the field, not many players in the MLB have the swag that Frankie Lindor has.
No, not very many at all. But like I said, small little segments for each sport. So that's it for baseball. We'll definitely have more to talk about as spring training really gets underway. But now we'll move over to the sport of golf, which had a really tough week this last week. We've all known, we all know the story. Tiger Woods in a car accident that leaves him recovering from surgery on his legs. Just really sad, crushed bones, a compound fracture, just everything, pouring it on to one of the greats, if not the greatest golfer of all time, but definitely up there among the greats. Luckily not life-threatening. When I first saw that car, I was like, oh no, this is this year's big loss. You know, last year we had Kobe, and it took a while to recover. I can't believe it's been a year. You know, you're still recovering from the heartache of a role model. I thought that when I saw that car, I was like, please no, like 2020 is over. Like this is a new year, better year. Thankfully, he's in great care and should recover. And I'm sure we'll see him golf again someday. It might not be on the tour, but I'm sure we'll see a Mickelson-Woods battle. They're both retiring. This is the last hurrah, something like that. You know, well, I'm sure we'll see it. But the WGC Workday Championship, I always butcher his name. Colin, help me with this one, Jacob. Colin
Morikawa.
Morikawa. I always want to say Morikawa. I don't know why, but Morikawa, he wins the Workday Championship with a score of under 18 under. Koepka, McIlroy, and others all play well over the weekend. Really competitive tournament, that's for sure. But Sunday, that's the day we loved. Players honor Tiger Woods by wearing the red polo. A lot of them wore the black pants just after the accident to honor the man, and it was really nice seeing that. And then Tiger even came out and talked about it on Twitter, how it touched him. But Jacob, I'll ask you thoughts on Morikawa, and then thoughts on the gesture towards Woods for everybody to wear red on that Sunday, on that fourth round.
So first off, Tiger Woods is very fortunate to be alive. I had the same exact reaction as you did. I was actually in class when it happened, and I remember coming out of class and all my ESPN notifications were going crazy, and I just saw a picture of the car, and I thought, oh my gosh, Tiger Woods just died in a car accident. Because and the scary thing, too, about the Kobe situation was it was around where Kobe died, I believe, too.
Yeah.
It was in that Los Angeles area, kind of near Calabasas. So that just would have been absolutely devastating if he would have passed away. But fortunately, he is okay. And if he comes back from this, I mean, it's just going to be, yet again, another great comeback story for him.
Yeah.
I'm the same way as you. I think he's going to come back at some point. It's going to take him a very long time because he already had back surgery in this year, and now he's going to have these leg surgeries to deal with too. So it's definitely going to be a long uphill battle. I hope he wins again, but it's definitely going to be a struggle now with all these injuries. But it was just a great gesture on Sunday, and it really just shows the impact he's had on the world of golf. And Stephen A. Smith said it perfectly. People really never watched golf before Tiger Woods came onto the scene. I mean, he just totally changed the landscape of golf forever, and he actually made it a sport that young people actually wanted to compete in because they saw, kind of like how we talked about Francisco Lindor in the last segment, had swag. Tiger Woods, he was about the swaggiest athlete alive at one point when he was doing his Tiger Slams in the 90s and 2000s. So
fist pump,
Tiger Woods,
the red Nike polos
of golf.
So
famous Sunday Reds right there. But as far as Colin Morikawa goes, I mean, I don't want to say he's under the radar because he has a major, but he still is pretty much under the radar in my opinion. And it's time that we finally respect this guy, give the guy his respect that he deserves, because he's a star on the tour. And I look at it like this. There's a lot of young Americans, and it's a super strong group right now. You have guys like Matthew Wolf, Victor Hovland, Scotty Scheffler, and even I'm going to throw your boy Bryson DeChambeau in there. He's a little bit older than these guys, I believe, but he's still a young gun.
Yeah,
so
I think he's 26.
All these young Americans. Yeah, 26. And that's the thing. He's the oldest one of them, and he's only 26. So just crazy to think about right there. But Morikawa is neck and neck with DeChambeau as far as who's the best out of that group right now, because Morikawa also made a lot of history this past weekend. He joined Tiger, actually, as the only players in PGA Tour history to win a World Golf Championship and a major championship before the age of 25. So that's very impressive right there. I expect Collin Morikawa to win multiple majors throughout his career. He's not going away anytime soon. He's going to be just a Mr. Consistent type golfer, because really, you find him either winning tournaments or he's usually in the top 20 every single week. So he's going to consistently make those cuts. He's going to win occasionally, but he's definitely got a couple more majors in his bag, and he's also got some World Golf Championships, I bet, too.
Yeah, and that's exactly, you touched on the point I was going to mention for Morikawa is I've always watched golf here and there, but since COVID has struck, and it was initially the only sport back on TV, I've really gotten into it more. So I'm more invested in all these tournaments, these weekly tournaments, and you talked about always finishing the top 20. Morikawa, that's exactly what I was going to say. A name you always see on the leaderboard when they flash the numbers up there, and he's always towards the top, it seems like, as well, especially since COVID struck, is what I was going to say. So definitely a guy that's on the rise and, like you said, consistent. So it's not surprising at all, and it's a name I as well expect to see more and more as his career goes on and he ages and matures in the sport of golf. And then again, I agree, the gesture towards Woods, the guy that really turned the sport of golf on, like you said, to a lot of the younger generation, and I'm just glad, like we talked about already, that it's not life-threatening and that there's a chance he comes back. And you know Tiger. He's one of the most competitive guys you've ever met. So, like I said, even if it's not the PGA, he's going to golf again in some way, somehow, whether it's a charity event with Phil or... I mean, I'm sure he'll end up on the tour. It's Tiger Woods. His name alone qualifies him. So it's just a matter of time, and we all wonder how long that time is going to be, because that's a tough recovery. Just a crush fracture, and then obviously the compound fracture. That's a lot to come back from. But knowing the guy and what he's done throughout his career already, I wouldn't be surprised to see him back on the course within the next couple of years. So that is it for PGAs. Now we'll head over to our next, which is the NFL. Again, not a lot going on in the NFL as offseason, really just in starting to kick off. We have one major trade and one major signing, though, to kick things off. This past week, we've seen a lot of teams starting to do their cuts. We see Kyle Rudolph let go after 10 seasons with the Vikings. Other guys that have made an impact over the years as well have been cut. But as far as trade and signings go, we've only really seen these two big ones. So we'll start with the trade. Carson Wentz. He's traded to the Colts for a 2021 third-rounder and a 2022 second-round pick. So, Jacob, do you think the reunion with Frank Reich will help Wentz? Or do you think that just Wentz is a lost cause? And if you do think it helps, Wentz to get back with Reich, do you think this will be a good move for the Colts? Or do you think that it's just a lost cause and the Colts kind of screwed themselves here?
Well, first off, I don't know about you, Will, but I was kind of surprised at the package that the Eagles received from this, because they were talking about trading him for really months, I feel like. And they kept saying, no, we're holding out. We want a first-round pick. We want all these different picks, everything like that. And they only got a second and third rounder, which I get it. Second-round pick is still very high, and the third-round pick is still relatively high, too. But it was just the way that the Eagles were conducting their business. I was just surprised to see it was only 2 picks, and none of them were first-rounders. So that just kind of caught me off guard there a little bit. But as far as the reunions go, it's surely going to help Carson Wentz, because I feel like a big reason that he was struggling last year too was just because of all that he went through in Philadelphia. If you really think about it, it wasn't just last year. It was just the fact that you come off an MVP season and then you get hurt and then you see another man take your team to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl too. That's got to do a lot for his head right there, just not putting him in a good headspace. And then to really come back from the injury as well, and that guy continues to take your job like Nick Foles did, and then you eventually ship him out and you think it's your job, and then so they go draft Jalen Hurts, and then he eventually comes in, takes your job. So I just think, I'm not saying that his play was great last year because it was absolutely atrocious, but I think a part of the reason why his play was so bad was because the trust between him and the Eagles and him and Doug Peterson especially was just so broken that he just couldn't function anymore. He was in his own head. So he's comfortable with Frank Reich, and he trusts Frank Reich, and he had the best year of his career under him. So I just feel like that trust level there with Frank Reich is going to put Carson Wentz back, not necessarily in the same exact position that he was when the Eagles won the Super Bowl before he got injured. I don't think he's ever going to be that good once again, but he's still going to be an above average quarterback at that. And as far as the Colts go, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily going to hurt them all that much. I don't know if it's going to get them to the Super Bowl. Like some analysts I've heard have said that they think the Colts have a strong shot at going to the Super Bowl. I personally don't see that in the AFC when you have the Chiefs are still obviously there. The Bills with Josh Allen and their defense, they're going to be there. The Browns, they're ascending. So I think it's just going to be hard for them to get to the Super Bowl, but they can definitely win a playoff game. I wouldn't be surprised. And two, I think what's going to help Carson out a lot is you have guys like Jonathan Taylor there. If Marlon Mack comes back healthy, you have him. You have Naheem Hines too. So you have all these really good running backs to really take the pressure off him as well. And he's got good wideouts in Michael Pittman Jr. and T.Y. Hilton if he does come back in free agency. So, I mean, Carson Wentz has got a lot of weapons around him. He's out of his own head now because he's out of that situation in Philadelphia, and he's reunited with the coach that he trusts. So he's going to do good, and I think the Colts, not Super Bowl good, but they can definitely win a playoff game or two.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I'm interested to see how Wentz does because I definitely he wasn't all to blame. He hasn't looked the same since the injuries, but this past season, it's tough to put all the blame on him with terrible line play, no weapons at all offensively, and then your defense getting beat up in a lot of these games. Now, their defense played well in a couple games and kept them in it, but just no help as far as the receiving core goes. Now, I'm not saying Indianapolis's receiving core is something that lights the world on fire. T.Y. is definitely past his prime, and if he does come back, and Michael Pittman is on the rise, but he's still not, a star. So it's going to be interesting. They definitely don't need running back, and they definitely have one of the best lines in football. So Wentz is going to praise that. That's for sure. He won't be getting hit on every single play within 2 seconds. But I definitely, if I'm the Colts, you have one of the best defenses, one of the best offensive lines, and your backfield is set. You're going wide receiver. That's just how I feel. And if they don't, I will be thoroughly surprised. But we'll see. They have the 20th pick, I believe, in the first round. I think the only way you're deterred from going receiver is if somehow, some way, Mac Jones or Trey Lance falls to you and you want that safety valve for if Wentz doesn't work out. Because it's really hard to pass on those two if you're the Colts at 20 and they fall to you. But we'll see. I definitely agree he'll have a better opportunity in Indianapolis as far as not getting sacked every player. The defense helping win ball games, and they will be a playoff team again, whether Wentz is the quarterback or not. But I agree. The people talking Colts in the Super Bowl, I think that's a little outlandish until we see what Wentz does with this team, how he fits in. I think he'll fit in well with Reich, having that relationship already established. But I'm not saying Super Bowl in the first year. It might take a couple of years before we see that. And if he's not better, you move on. So it's going to be interesting to see, and I agree. The Colts definitely got away with a robbery here, getting a somewhat decent quarterback for not even giving up a first-round pick. And this year, you're not even giving up your second-round pick either. So definitely a great move by the Colts. Yeah. So now we'll talk about the big signing. J.J. Watt, everybody thought it was Cleveland, Green Bay, Buffalo. One of those three. Tennessee was kind of in the mix. Now, 2-year deal with the Cardinals, worth $31 million. He says Kyler Murray is the reason. I have a feeling D-Hop might be a little bit of the reason as well. Jacob, thoughts on the signing? Are you surprised?
I am extremely surprised, and I'm very upset with this move too. And I'm mainly upset with this move just because of the way that he went about it, because he basically, I don't want to say he necessarily called out the Texans like Deshaun Watson's been calling them out, but he basically did say, without saying it, okay, you guys are at the bottom of the division. I don't want to play for you anymore. I want to go to a contender, which is very understandable for a player of his caliber and at his age, that he would want to go after that Super Bowl. But why in the world would you pick the Arizona Cardinals? I mean, it's not a knock on the Cardinals at all, because they have a young coach, they have a young quarterback, one of the best wide receivers in the game. Chandler Jones is very elite on that defense as well. So not a knock on those guys at all. But in my opinion, they're in the toughest division in football.
Yeah.
And they're the worst team in that division when the 49ers are healthy.
Yeah.
Because the 49ers were not healthy at all last year. And I don't want to say they had a great season, because they did not. But for the circumstances, they did not have that bad of a season. They basically had no quarterback. Their star tight end was out. Their wide receivers were in and out of the game as well. Not to mention Nick Bosa was out.
Their whole defensive line.
Season.
Their whole defensive line was hurt.
Exactly. So that was a team that literally went to the Super Bowl the year before based off their defense. And like how you said, their whole entire line is out. So they're obviously not going to be that great. And so that's why the Cardinals were better than them this year. And I'm not trying to knock on Kyler Murray at all, because I also think that he is a great quarterback. And to be totally honest, when he came out of college at Oklahoma and he got picked number 1 overall, I was like, oh, maybe he'll do good, or maybe he's a bust. I'm not so sure. He's no bust. He's definitely going to be really good in the NFL for a while. But in my opinion, too, it's just because of the division he's in. He's the 3rd best quarterback in this division, because I'm definitely not taking him over Russell Wilson. And at this point, Matthew Stafford, I'm taking him over Kyler Murray, too. So J.J. Watt's reasoning that, oh, I came here for Kyler Murray, too. Well, he's the 3rd best quarterback in your division, too, J.J. So, I mean, he to me, if he really wanted to go win a Super Bowl, he would have went to either Buffalo or Cleveland, or maybe even a team like Tennessee, because they took a flyer on Jadeveon Clowney, and that obviously didn't work out all that great for them. So I could have seen him going there too and helping out the Titans. But yeah, going to Arizona, I mean, you go from the worst team in the AFC South to, in my opinion, the worst team in the NFC West. If I'm a Texans fan, I'm honestly pretty upset with the move myself too, because it's kind of like, oh, you didn't want to play for us when we were going to be the worst team. You just wanted to go to a team that's also going to be the worst team in their division, most likely. So,
yeah, I agree. I would throw the Packers in there too when you're talking about winners, just because, and that's going home for him. That's a homecoming. You get to go home and be a winner. But I agree. Kyler Murray is not, in my opinion, I take Josh Allen, Baker, and Aaron Rodgers over Kyler. Tannehill, some games, yes. I would say maybe if they played each other 16 times, I'd say Tennessee, Arizona probably splits. But not by any means. I saw this post said, if you didn't like us when we're 8-8, don't love us when we're 8-1. So, and that's the thing. I don't know how much of an impact Watt's going to make on an 8-8 roster when they're now going up against a healthy 49ers team twice, a Rams team with a competent quarterback twice, and if Russell Wilson stays in Seattle, a lethal offense twice. Now there's rumors Wilson to New Orleans, which I wouldn't be completely mad about, but we also haven't heard about Drew Brees. Drew Brees has not officially retired yet, so that's a big thing that's going on there in the NFC as well. But I don't agree with JJ's choice. Maybe because Chandler Jones said he'll be his personal chef on Mondays and Wednesdays for free. I mean, if Chandler Jones is cooking some good food, I would probably do it too. $15 million and I'm getting cooked for on Mondays and Wednesdays, okay. And I have an okay chance at making it to the playoffs, but I agree. The 3 teams we initially heard, or the 4 teams we initially heard, I thought would have all been better chances at winning, which is Buffalo, Green Bay, Cleveland, and Tennessee. But I guess not. All I got to say is, at least he's in the NFC. So, although the Browns and Cardinals are supposed to play this year, so we will, if he's healthy, we'll be seeing J.J. Watt on Browns broadcast. But that's another big thing too. You're paying a guy that has literally played 1 full season in the last 4 years, $15.5 million on average, the average of his salary. So that's, I don't know if there's a winner in this signing. J.J. Watt joined a team that's shaky, and Cardinals signed a guy that's hurt. So
yeah, if I'm JJ Watt too, I mean, just watching the Cardinals down the stretch last year, I mean, they just completely faltered. They were in total control of making the playoffs, and they just literally could not win a game down the stretch just to get them in a winning situation. So how do you look at that team? And I mean, I know Kyler Murray might have been a little bit banged up, so that could have been a reason too, but that's really not an excuse. If he's that elite of a quarterback, if he's like the whole reason why you want to go there, then how in the heck did he not get the team to the playoffs last year too?
Yeah.
So it's just, they haven't been to the playoffs since the Carson Palmer years, and that seems like
Bruce Arians, baby. Bruce Arians,
yep. So I just don't understand it. I would have been okay with it if he would have came out and said, I'm just trying to get the biggest paycheck possible, because that's honestly what he did here. But when he comes out and he says, I want to go win a Super Bowl, you're not going to win a Super Bowl in Arizona. I hate to break it to you.
Dude, that Cardinals team you talked about, Palmer, David Johnson when he was the best running back in the league, Larry Fitzgerald, you had on the defense Honey Badger, still had Chandler Jones, you had Deion Buchanan who had his 1 year prime. That was a fun team to watch now that you mentioned that.
Yeah, and Patrick Peterson too.
Yeah, Patrick Peterson.
Corner, he was so.
I don't even know how I forgot his name. That was like his biggest season, but that was a really fun team to watch. Them and the Panthers that year. Sheesh.
Oh yeah.
Where are they at now? So, yeah, I agree. It basically looks like he made a money move, but he's making it sound like it was for Kyler and D-Hop, which I guess he's trying to save face at this point. But hey, it's his career, it's his livelihood. He can do what he wants. He thoroughly shocked the NFL world when he signed with the Cardinals, and we're gonna see what they do. Maybe they'll go 9-7 or 9-8 or 9-8. I don't know. This 17-game season is throwing me off. I'm so used to knowing what records are supposed to be, and now it's like, what's what? You know? I'm so used to saying 12-4, 8-8. Now it's like I got to do math in my head because it's a freaking prime number that I have to do math to.
Yeah.
But that'll be all for the NFL, as I'm sure more will pop up. We'll get a mock draft going there in April. And obviously with the offseason progressing, we'll see more and more popping up. But that takes us to probably the most exciting sport right now, which is college basketball, as we get into conference championships. So right now, bracketology, instead of going through rankings, we'll go over what everybody wants to know. Where's everybody going to be seated, you know? So bracketology right now has the 4-1 seeds as the only undefeated team in Gonzaga, Baylor, Illinois, and Michigan. Which, Illinois and Michigan, what a game. 2 seeds, not a good game at all. I didn't mean that as a good game. Quite the snooze fest. As for the 2 seeds right now, Iowa, Houston, Alabama, and then the Buckeyes of Ohio State, who are hitting a little bit of a rough patch in the season. 3 straight losses, 2 to schools from Michigan, and then Iowa, which, I mean, Michigan and Iowa are both top 10 teams, so just being able to split with those two. Michigan State's the one that really, I think, knocked them out of that 1 seed level. Right now, the last 4 in are Drake, Seton Hall, who's having a big game against UConn tonight. Michigan State, I think that win over Ohio State puts them in that discussion more so than ever. And then Xavier. And for the first 4 out, Boise State, Utah State, St. Louis, and Duke. Gosh, could you imagine a year without Duke and Kentucky? It might happen, as Duke's left out as of right now. That ACC tournament's going to be big for them. If they're one and done, we're not seeing Duke. But if they can make a little bit of, I'm not even saying win it, if they can maybe get to the final, the semifinals, I think Duke's in. But they gotta prove a lot in that ACC tournament. So before we get into our conference tournament predictions, let's talk a little bit of the last week of basketball. Really, I feel like, or last 2 weeks, I should say, because we haven't been on in a week. But the biggest thing is still the Big Ten. We see a great game between Michigan and Ohio State. We see Illinois whoop Michigan. We see Michigan State upset Ohio State. We see Iowa and Ohio State in a good game. Just the Big Ten coming down to the stretch before conference tournaments. Really good basketball. Baylor also had a really good game last night. Last night against West Virginia. Went to overtime. So basketball is getting more intense because the teams know these games are really going to start mattering here within the next 5 days. So Jacob, your thoughts on the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so you touched on it right there. The Big Ten just is incredible right now. And Ohio State, yes, they have stumbled a bit, but, I mean, look at their schedule, like how you said, too. Like, I don't understand it. You got Michigan, Michigan State, and Iowa in the past 2 weeks. Those are all 3 just huge games.
Yeah.
So it's understandable they're going to slip up. And I said it earlier in the year, too, in one of the earlier podcasts, the Big Ten is just going to continue to beat up on each other until the tournament comes because it's just that good. So it's understandable why Ohio State dropped those games. They're still definitely a threat come tournament time. But Michigan getting blown out by Illinois, that just surprised me so much. And if we weren't taking the Illini very seriously before this game, it's definitely time to, because Ayo Dosunmu, which I might have totally butchered his name there as well, he's the real deal, and I believe that he can win the National Player of the Year right now. He's just been that good. He's going to have a long career in the NBA, too. He looks like a very NBA-ready prospect. And Kofi Cockburn, too. He's been great there for the Illini as well. I really think that this bracketology, with having the Big Ten getting four of the 1 and 2 seeds, 4 of the 8 there, that's totally going to happen. And I wouldn't be surprised if 4 teams really would end up making the Elite 8, or even, well, definitely Sweet 16, but for sure Elite 8 potentially too. I would not be surprised to see all 4 of these teams in that situation, because that's just how good the conference has been. And then that Baylor-West Virginia game last night, oh, that was just awesome. And unfortunately, I was calling the basketball games from out here, so I couldn't watch it, but I ended up seeing a little bit of the stats right there, and it was a huge game for the Bears because they came off their first loss. And so going into Morgantown and playing a really, really talented West Virginia
Number
squad
6.
and going into overtime, that's just huge for their confidence, especially going into March. But I was talking about it with Brendan last night. There's just this thing with Baylor. Every year I feel like they're above average, or they just make the tournament, they're pretty good, and then they usually get upset at some point. So I got a feeling that could be this Baylor team too, just because they've been hit by COVID so many times. They're just not quite in a great rhythm. I wouldn't be surprised to see them not make as deep a run here in the tournament. They're still definitely capable of it, but I still have my doubts, but I have less doubts after the West Virginia game last night. And then finally, too, another conference, the Big East. It's just a great basketball conference, too, honestly, because Villanova, I thought, was going to run away with it, and then Creighton comes in and knocks the Wildcats off. So then I think, Creighton's going to come in and win. And then Creighton gets knocked off by Xavier. So it's really wide open, too, and it's especially going to be fun to watch down the stretch with Xavier and Seton Hall on the bubble here, too, so they can definitely make deep conference tournament runs, too. But that's going to be very exciting to watch, because I really think it's between Villanova, Creighton, Xavier, Seton Hall, and Connecticut. Every one of those teams has a shot to win the Big East. And I just love March, Will, because so many upsets.
Yep.
And everybody, it doesn't matter. You could be right now, like how we saw last night with Muskingum against Mount Union. You could have literally a losing record, and you go in and you can knock somebody off, and next thing you know, you're in the semifinals of a tournament. So it's just great. I just love this time of the year.
Yeah, and going off a couple other things, in the past couple weeks, a team I forgot to mention, Oklahoma. They're seeing their struggles begin, getting swept by Oklahoma State, losing the Bedlam Trophy, and also having a loss before that. So they've hit a 3-game losing streak just like the Buckeyes. And then your boys, the Texas Longhorns, they knock off Kansas. I bet you were excited to see that. So Big 12 action, a lot of fun as well down there with Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, OSU, and then obviously Baylor and West Virginia. And something else I forgot to mention is Michigan whooped on Iowa before their whooping by Illinois. So the Big Ten really beating on each other right now. The games aren't even close between these top 10 teams. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes in the Big Ten tournament. But now it's time, Jacob. You and I are the only 2 on our sports team that get to do this, because we put schoolwork aside. No, I'm kidding. We just got lucky enough to not have as big of a workload tonight. So conference tournament predictions. Who's winning the conference? So we'll start with the Atlantic Sun. Jacob, who is your pick for taking the ASUN conference?
The ASUN, this was kind of an easy one for me. They're at the top of the standings right now. It's the Liberty Flames. They've just been very strong. They have a strong football season too. So I just feel like all their athletic programs really going on the uprise there. But 20-5 and 11-2 in the conference, I don't see how they lose it. I tried when I was going through this list here to try to pick as many upsets as I could see happening, but here in the ASUN, I just didn't see that happening at all. Liberty's going to run away with this conference.
Me and you had the same process of thought there. Who lower tier? Because there's gonna be upsets. So can you be the baller guy that makes the pick? But I agree. The ASUN, it's the one team. It's Liberty, and it's the easy pick. If they do go down, that's just March. But I have a feeling that Liberty is going to continue their great, just athletic year and get into the tournament with the automatic bid. Now that takes us to the America East Conference. Two teams at the top of the standings, same record in conference play. Two we've seen in March. One we saw pull off one of the greatest upsets in March Madness history. Who are you taking in this conference? Do you have an upset going here, or is it the top of the standings?
It's going to be that team that made the big upset. It's going to be the UMBC Retrievers. They're 14-5, 10-4 record, tied with the Vermont Catamounts. And it was very hard for me to pick against Vermont because Vermont's very well known for winning the America East, and they always have a solid basketball program too. But another team to keep an eye out for is the University of Hartford, because right now they're 8-6, so they're in the middle of the standings there, but they've won 3 straight. And if we know anything, you want to get hot in March, so they appear to be doing that right now. So keep an eye on them, but I really do think it's going to end up being between UMBC and Vermont, and I've got the Retrievers going over the Catamounts here in this situation.
Yeah, so I agree. I'm going University of Maryland, Baltimore County, quite the name there. UMBC, the only 16 seed to ever win a March Madness game. They split their season series with Vermont, so it's winner takes all if they do meet in the championship. I agree, Hartford, a team to watch out for, but I'm going UMBC, again, top of the standings just for the America East. I know the easy picks, but we'll get more and more as we get into those bigger conferences, obviously. That's where things start to take a turn. And not a huge conference, but a bigger conference here next, the American Athletic Conference. There's a lot of excitement there in the top 5 specifically. Who are you taking in the American Athletic Conference tournament?
Yeah, this is – at first, just looking at it, I just had a no-brainer pick of the Houston Cougars, and I'm going to stick with that because that's what I have written down here. But would not be surprised to see the Wichita State Shockers come out and win that conference, or the Memphis Tigers, or really – a team that struggled very badly this year, at least for their standards. The Cincinnati Bearcats are always a well-known March team, so they can definitely come in too, make some noise in this conference tournament, but it's very hard to pick against the Cougars, so I'm going to go Cougars here.
So, Jacob, I'm starting to think you're getting paid off by Cincinnati here. No, I'm kidding. Cincinnati, no, I agree. They're definitely a team. A lot of the Ohio teams, it seems like, come alive in March. Dayton's another one, as we'll get into their conference next. But American Athletic, I'm going to Houston as well. Wichita State, obviously, a team you see in the tournament a lot. Memphis as well. I agree. Those are the 3 teams that I think are to beat. But Houston, a 2 seed right now. I think they've had one of their best seasons in program history at 20-3. I think this is the year that they win the American Athletic Conference and attempt to make a run in March. That takes us to the A10, otherwise known as the Atlantic 10. And where are we going here? Dayton, obviously, a little lower in the standings. We talked about them earlier. They lose their big star in Obi Toppin. That's a really sad story. Dayton was a top 4 team last year, and then COVID. It was really kind of interesting what they did, but they take a hit. They're still 13-8, but they currently sit 7th in the A10 standings. Who are you taking to win this conference?
Well, I'll just say my pick straight up. I'm going with the VCU Rams here, 17-6, 10-4. I definitely think the Bonnies of St. Bonaventure could win this conference as well. Even I look at St. Louis, they're always pretty good in March too. They can definitely make a run. But, Will, we need to talk about the A10 more because it really is just a great basketball conference. They always have a lot of good mid-major schools in here. And I'm surprised that they're not getting more love there on the bubble because, really, there's a lot of great teams in this conference this year. And it's a very underappreciated one. But I'm just going with Virginia Commonwealth University here to go back to the tournament when they made a Cinderella run. What's crazy about that, too, is that was almost 10 years ago. So that makes me feel very old, honestly.
All right, so here's where I'm picking one of my upsets. I'm thinking Dayton makes a run.
Dayton?
They have big wins throughout the conference on the year. 13-8, not terrible. Obviously not what they were doing last year. But I think Dayton makes an A10 tourney run, and they represent the automatic bid, at least, in the conference. A team like VCU at 17-6, if they make it far enough, you might get 2 A10 teams in there, as we do see sometimes. But I'm thinking Dayton gets the automatic bid. And that's the Ohioan in me coming out there. So that takes us to usually what is the best conference in basketball. But this year, definitely not the case. Only 3 teams in the top 25. The Atlantic Coastal Conference, otherwise known as the ACC, where we're going here.
So I got it between 4 teams, honestly, and I think every single one of these teams can win. And it's going to be the team atop it, 14-4, 10-3, the Florida State Seminoles. I definitely think that I'm going to say they're going to end up winning it, but they're going to end up playing, in my opinion, it's going to be the Clemson Tigers in the conference championship here. Amir Sims has Clemson kind of on a bit of a streak here, and they've been playing well here down the stretch. They're 15-6 and 9-6 in the conference, so I definitely think that the Tigers could potentially make it to the ACC championship game, but do not be surprised if you see the North Carolina Tar Heels or the Duke Blue Devils in those situations too. But Florida State, I love Leonard Hamilton. I love what he's done as the head coach there, and I love their freshman Scotty Barnes. So I just think that the Seminoles are going to be able to find a way to win what I think is going to be a very crazy ACC tournament.
I'm going to go Notre Dame here. I'm kidding. No, I am going North Carolina. It's funny you mentioned that at the end. Duke and North Carolina definitely having underwhelming seasons, but as far as their standard goes, North Carolina's sitting at 15-9. But when you're used to being 21-3 every year, this is lower standards for you. So I think their team, great coaching, great roster. I think they make a run in the ACC and they take the top. But I could definitely see your take in Florida State, who's probably been the most consistent team in a very inconsistent conference this season. But I'm going North Carolina for the Atlantic Coastal Conference. There's another one I'm going kind of low in the standings on. That takes us to the Big 12 now. This is a conference that might get pretty wild. 7 top 25 teams, including 2 top 10 teams, and a lot of history. Where are you going in the Big 12? I think I know where you're going in Big 12.
I have the Kansas Jayhawks actually written down in my notes here, but I'm not going to go with them anymore. Looking at these standings right here, right now, I'm going to make a prediction that not many people are going to see coming, I would say, but I'm going the Oklahoma State Cowboys here. I do not believe in Baylor. I do not at all. Texas, I believe in a little bit, but they've struggled a little bit. The Jayhawks, I initially picked them, I'm not going to lie to you, Will, just because they are the traditional blue blood, and they have been playing better as of late, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them win the conference here. But Oklahoma State is riding a big-time win streak, and Cade Cunningham might not win National Player of the Year, but he's going to be the consensus number 1 pick in the NBA draft, and he's got those Cowboys playing great basketball right now. So they call it March Madness for a reason. Give me the Cowboys here winning the Big 12.
Okay. I like it. They're on a 5-game win streak, like you mentioned, so they're definitely having a great season, especially 2 against their bitter rival in Oklahoma. But I'm going with what you initially said, and that's Kansas. Just the team that seems to be at the top. Baylor does win. They clinched their in-season championship, and I mean it helps when you have 2 weeks off. But Kansas had to play almost double the games. But I think Kansas catches their heat here in March. They're usually a team that's kind of disappointing in the bracket itself in March Madness, but that conference tournament they always shine bright. And I'm taking the Jayhawks of Kansas in the Big 12 because they're not getting it done in football. So that takes us to the Big East now. And like you said, they don't have all the ranked teams, but still a fun conference to watch. Jacob, where are you going in the Big East?
Yeah, this is going to be a crazy finish here. I think that Xavier needs to make a big run in order to make the NCAA tournament, and I think they very well could, especially with beating Creighton in this past week. But I'm going Blue Jays here. I really like what they have going this year, and they really were just in kind of a really bad situation with their head coach, Greg McDermott, making some insensitive comments out there. I think it's going to bring the team actually closer together and really want to play harder and win this conference tournament. So the Blue Jays, I think, are going to end up beating Xavier in the conference championship. I would say Villanova, but they've just been so up and down this year. I just don't have that much faith in them. So give me the Blue Jays here in the Big East.
Jacob, I'm Hall in. Seton Hall, baby. I'm taking Seton Hall to win the Big East. I know, the shocker. I just have a feeling. I don't know why. They did lose tonight to UConn in their big game against UConn, but I feel like that's the hey, it's time to wake up because you're included in that first four or last four in. So if you want to hold on to that spot, you got to get it going now, and that's the conference championship. I think they realize that, and I think they get it going. So I'm hauling for the Big East. That takes us now to the Big Sky Conference. Again, we're going to start getting into these smaller conferences where it tends to be one of the top two teams. Who are you taking for the Big Sky?
I'm going with the upset of the century here. The 1-20 Idaho Vandals are going to end up winning the Big Sky. I'm just kidding on that one. No.
I was like, are they even going to make the tournament? I don't even know how the Big Sky tournament works. They might be done.
Yeah, they might honestly be done. But I think it's between three teams here. Eastern Washington, they've won 9 straight. They're 11-2 in the conference. Southern Utah's won 7 straight. They're 10-2. But I'm going with Damian Lillard's alma mater, the Weber State Wildcats here. They're 16-5 on the season. They're 11-3 in conference play. They've won 5 in a row. So I just feel like that they can definitely make a tournament run here. And Weber State, I got them narrowing out Eastern Washington in the conference championship game.
I have Weber State as well. 5-game win streak, not as long as Southern Utah's 7 or Eastern Washington's 9, but they're still playing very good basketball. And I just didn't want to take the top team, so I went with Weber State just because, like you said, yep. Damian Lillard's alma mater, so help me pick them. That takes us to the Big South now. Where are we going in the Big South? I think, honestly, we might be in agreement on this one. I think it's a safe pick.
Yeah. I'll go out and say here, the Winthrop Eagles, 21-1, 17-1 in the conference. And I'm going to go as far as saying, I'm not saying they're going to make the Sweet 16, but I definitely think that this is a team that sometimes we see like a 12 seed get to the Sweet 16 and 11 seed get to the Sweet 16. I would not be surprised if Winthrop's in that situation and they make it to the Sweet 16 because they've just played incredible under the radar basketball really too this year. I feel like they're not getting that much love for being 21-1, which is incredible right now, especially in the COVID year. So Winthrop, I definitely think is just going to run away with this conference.
Yep, I agree. I don't think it's going to be a contest. Definitely, I like your take that they could be that, lower seed that gets the upsets. 21-1, great season. I don't think anyone competes with them in this conference tournament. So that takes us now to probably the toughest conference to choose a conference champion for, and that is the Big Ten. Jacob, it's the moment of truth. Who are you taking in what has been by far the best conference in Division I basketball this year?
Well, I thought it was going to be very hard for me to pick it too, but it really wasn't. Looking at everything right now, Illinois is just hot for me right now, and I just love Ayo Dosunmu, like how I said in my take earlier. I think he has what it takes to really just seal the deal here for the Fighting Illini. So I have Illinois really winning the conference tournament. I don't know who they'll play in the championship because I really think it's just going to be craziness leading up to the championship game, but I think Illinois is going to find themselves in there. They're going to end up winning the conference.
So I'm taking the top seed or the top team right now, and I'm going Michigan for mine. Yes, they definitely had a rough game last night with Illinois, but I think that's just a one-time thing. They beat Ohio State in the past week. They beat Iowa in the past week. I just think they had a bad night, and that happens. You're 18-1. You're due for a bad night, especially in this conference. But I think they turn it on. We've seen Michigan make spectacular runs in the conference tournaments, and I think they have a good one here and win it. Win the Big Ten once again. Takes us now to the Big West. Who you got going here? There's so many conferences in basketball, but we're still in the B's. The Big West. This is the final B team.
I'm going to go here with just the top team, the UC Santa Barbara Guachos, 17-4, 11-3. They've been a well-known tournament team as well as of late. I could see UC Davis potentially making a run. I just didn't pick them because they've only played 14 games this year, and they're on a 5-game win streak, and they're only 5-3 in the conference. So really, I just don't have enough data right there to really just say that UC Davis would make a run here. So UC Santa Barbara, they'll win the Big West.
I'm going UC Irvine for mine. I feel like they're a team that we see a lot of tournament runs as far as the Big West goes. Always sneaking in there, getting that 15 or 16 seed from the automatic bid. I'm going Irvine here, but I do have them playing Santa Barbara in the championship for the Big West. All right, we're out of the Bs now as we move on to the Colonial Athletic Association, the CAA. Who you got here, Jacob?
Yeah, this is a very interesting conference, honestly. I mean, I feel like they have a bunch of teams that have made it to the tournament over the past couple of years. But I'm going to go with kind of an under-the-radar team here. This is one of my upsets, if you want to call it that. I got the Hofstra Pride here making a run into the tournament. They're 12-9, 8-6 in the conference, so really nothing overly impressive. It's just they've made the tournament in the past, and especially recently, too, they've been getting to the big dance. So I definitely think they have what it takes to get back there. And I definitely think that they'll end up playing either at James Madison or Northeastern down the stretch. But Hofstra, they're going to end up making it to the big dance.
I think our notes are starting to mesh here a little bit. I had Hofstra as well. I know, that's weird. The fourth team in the standings right now. I don't know. I just feel like the most recognizable brand in that conference, and they also have a good basketball team to back that up. I think that they come out on top in the Colonial Conference. That takes us to the Conference USA. Big football conference here. Who are you taking in the Conference USA?
Conference USA, I didn't realize there were this many good teams in there, but it really wasn't that hard of a pick for me. I got the 17-5 team as well as 10-2 in the conference, the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers here, and it's mainly just because of one player in particular. Charles Bassey is getting NBA attention, and deservedly so. He is just having a great season here for Western Kentucky. He's averaging 17 points and 12 rebounds a game, so he's definitely going to be on a lot of NBA teams' radars, and there's no better place to really play good basketball other than March in college basketball. So I expect him to carry Western Kentucky into the tournament.
Yeah, I have Western Kentucky written down as well, just because only, like you said, Bassey, the only NBA prospect right now really from the conference. But I'm going to take this bold prediction to whoever does win is going to be from the East. I think the West, the reason Louisiana Tech's having such a good season is because they're playing the lesser of competition. I think Old Dominion and Marshall are two teams we could see making a run as well. I'm taking Western Kentucky, but I'm saying the East definitely has the winner. As now we jump to H, all the way from C to H, we go to the Horizon League. Quite the leap there. I know who I really want, who I think is going to make a run and win the Horizon League. Jacob, who are you thinking?
So first off, the Horizon League tournament's already started, and I'm mainly saying this for my dad because he is a graduate of this school. Youngstown State University thought they could have made somewhat of a run. However, they ended up losing last night, so their dreams are already done with. So very sad if you're a Penguin fan. However, I'm going to pick what I know that the man that I do play-by-play with every single basketball game would definitely want me to pick. It's going to be the Cleveland State Vikings. I was very sad that Brendan was not here tonight because I know that he would be talking about how Cleveland State could potentially make it to the Sweet 16 just because he loves the Vikings so much. So Cleveland State, 17-7, 16-4, they win the Horizon League.
That's who I'm picking as well. Cleveland State, what a season they are having. And I think it continues, especially since I think the team that had the best chance of taking them down lost to Milwaukee last night, and that is Wright State. So now Cleveland State gets to play a 10-11 Milwaukee team in the semifinals. So honestly, it should be a somewhat, I don't want to say easy, but easier road to the championship, as Northern Kentucky and Oakland are the other two in the Final Four. So we're narrowing it down to 4 teams. This one, obviously, the Horizon League starts a little earlier, but I mean, if Oakland can get that upset, Cleveland State has one of the easiest paths to the Horizon League championship ever. So I'm going Cleveland State as well, and that takes us to the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, the MAAC. Where are we going here, Jacob?
I think it's between 3 teams, honestly, and it's the top 3 teams here in the conference. That would be Siena, Iona, and Monmouth. They've all been pretty good in the tournament, or at least getting to the tournament. But I'm going to go with Siena here at 11-3, both overall record and in the conference this year. I think Monmouth is the team that can give them a run for their money. but Siena, they're just too good of a basketball team. They're well known for having a solid program, so I'm just going with the Saints here.
I'm going Monmouth just because of the celebrations a few years back. No, I agree. They're a team that you always see making a somewhat of a run here in the MAAC, and I think this year they do it. Siena, they are having a great season. Don't get me wrong. 11-3, like you mentioned, only played conference play. Although a lot of these teams only played conference play, or maybe a few non-conferences. Monmouth is 10-7 with a 10-6 conference record, so not a lot of non-conference play, but I'm going Monmouth for what we would call the MAC here on campus. So now we go to the MAC, the Mid-American Athletic Conference, or the Mid-American Conference. There's no athletic, just a Mid-American Conference, so the MAC, the MAC. Where are you going here, Jacob?
So Toledo's having a great season at 14-4 in the conference, 19-7 overall. So it's very intriguing to pick them. And even Kent State's having a really good year too. However, I cannot pick against this team, especially what they did to Arizona a couple years ago in the tournament. They're just a very well-coached team, and they're finally starting to hit their stride here, winning 4 straight. It's the Buffalo Bulls for me, 13-7. Not a good year for them because really the past couple of years they've been in and out of the top 25, but 11-5 in the conference as well. And like how I said, the 4-game win streak, they're always dangerous in March, so they can definitely make a run and end up winning the MAC here.
I'm going Quakron. I'm going the current 4 seed in the conference. I'm saying the Akron Zips make a run and take over the MAC as we see a little bit of a different face representing the MAC. They've done it a couple times. I can't remember the last time. I think the last time I can remember off the top of my head is when they faced Notre Dame in the first round, when Notre Dame was a 2 seed and Akron was the 15 seed.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
How long ago was that? Was that the Heron Goody days or?
Yeah, that might have been Heron Goody and Ben Hansborough, honestly.
Yeah, Hansborough. That's a
Yeah.
throwback right there if I've ever heard one. Whew!
Yeah.
Hansborough and what a team that was. But that might be the last time I remember Akron making it. I feel like they've made it. I'm gonna have to look this up because I feel like they've made it since then. But that's just the only. That's the one that comes to mind, you know. So let's see. Yeah. Let's search MAC basketball tournament winners history. So, they don't have 4 championships because they showed each school that has 4. So let's see. The last time Akron won was 2013. And 2013 got them to. They didn't play. 2013 they ended up. Yeah, that wasn't the year they played Notre Dame because they actually were the 12 seed, and they ended up making it to the second. They lost to VCU in the first round, or the second round technically, 88-42. 2011 was when they played Notre Dame. They lost 69-56 as the 15 seed. So really, it's been 8 years. So we weren't too far off. 2011 to 2013. Around that time is when Akron was rolling. Well, I'm saying 2021's their year. So that takes us now to the MEAC, or the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. Jacob, where are you going here?
I'm going with the North Carolina A&T Aggies here. 11-10, 7-1 in the conference. It's not really that strong of a basketball conference. Norfolk State maybe can make a run. They're 14-7 on the year. But that's really the only team that I see that is a threat to them, I would say. So I'm going North Carolina A&T.
I have Norfolk State written down, but I 100% respect the answer of North Carolina A&T because I definitely think it's going to be one of those two. North Carolina A&T, honestly, a team we see a lot come out of this conference. We see them a lot. I feel like in those first 4 games, really unfortunate for them that it always seems like they have to play one of those first 4 games. But hey, at least it's easier to win one of those games than if you're the 16th seed going on 1. UMBC is the only one that can say they've done that. So that takes us now to the Missouri Valley Conference. And what's your pick here?
I just really hope that what I want to happen actually happens here. I want to see Loyola Chicago and Drake go at it in the conference championship because that would just be an incredible game. And I've been a Drake fan all year. I love what they've done because I feel like they've been very underappreciated too. But it's very hard for me to pick against the Ramblers here. So I'm going with Loyola Chicago, but I can very well see Drake winning the conference as well. Who knows too? Maybe Missouri State comes and makes a run, Indiana State, teams like that. But really, I just think it's ultimately going to come down to Loyola Chicago or Drake for me. And I got the Ramblers just barely beating Drake.
I hope that happens in the sense that if that's the championship, I think it's really hard for the committee to leave them both out no matter who wins. And that's why I want it to happen, because I want both of these teams to be represented in the field of 68. But I'm going Loyola Chicago as well over Drake in the championship, so we have the same outcome in the same game here. It's hard to pick against them, and like I said, I hope that happens because it's really hard to keep both Drake and Loyola out if that's literally the conference championship after the great seasons they've both had. I mean, you already have Drake as one of your last 4 in, so if they make the conference championship, even if they lose it, you feel like they still got a good shot, So that takes us to the Mountain West now. As we are tackling this list, we're getting into the second half of the alphabet where there's a lot less conferences. Who you got in the Mountain West Conference?
So I have Colorado State written down on here, and I know San Diego State's ranked and in the top 25, and they're at the top of the conference, but I just don't think they're going to end up winning it. But I'm actually going to change here from Colorado State. I'm going to go with the Utah State here. They're 16-7 on the season, 13-4 total. They're on the bubble as well. I think that they're going to have a lot of motivation here to end up making it, and I hope I say his name right, Neemias Queta. He's been a great center here for the Aggies. He's just been the leader all season here for them. He has been averaging on the year 14 points and 10 rebounds. So I think he can will this team into the tournament. And a bubble team always usually makes a run to try to get their way solidly in the tournament. So Utah State, I've got them winning the Mountain West.
Yeah, this top 4 in this conference is very competitive, all within one game. So really any of those 4 can take it. But I'm going to take the top of the conference, San Diego State. Getting gypped last year, similar to Dayton, they had one of their best seasons in franchise history, and then COVID happens. I think they take that to heart, and they come out and they run the Mountain West here in the conference tournament. And that is my pick for the Mountain West Conference. That takes us now to the Northeastern Conference. Who you got here?
So I'm going top of the conference here. It's the Wagner Seahawks for me. 13-6, 13-5 in the conference. Bryant's second, but I don't really believe in them all that much. The team that I could see coming out too as well is Mount St. Mary's, because they've made the tournament a bunch of times too recently, and their record's not very good. They're 10-10 on the season, 9-7 in conference play, but they can definitely make a run there. But for now, I'm going to go with the Wagner Seahawks.
I have Wagner as well for mine. Top of the conference. When you see these smaller conferences and then you see a team dominate it like Wagner has this season, it's kind of hard to go against them. So that takes us to the Ohio Valley. Where are you going here? Another great season at the top of the conference. You going top again?
It's very weird, too, that it's a great season at the top of the conference and you don't see Murray State up there, because I feel like Murray State is always on top of the Ohio Valley Conference.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with the team that's also always on top, and that's the Belmont Bruins, 24-3, 18-2. They just have a great program in and out. They've produced some NBA talent now. Dylan Windler on the Cavs went to Belmont, and he had a great career there, and it appears that they're continuing that tradition. But Morehead State and Eastern Kentucky both can definitely challenge the Bruins, but I expect them to win the conference.
Yeah, I'm going Belmont as well. Like I said, great season. Top of the conference. Only 3 losses on the season. I have them coming out of the OVC. So that takes us to the Pac-12 conference, a conference we usually see with multiple top 25 teams. Right now, only one, and it's number 24, Colorado. Where are you going here?
I'm going with the only team in the top 25, and that's Colorado. 19-7, 13-6. They're on a little bit of a win streak here. I think USC has the best player in the conference, and that's Evan Mobley. He's going to be a top 3 NBA selection in the draft. Oregon can definitely potentially make a run. I don't really believe in UCLA. I'm just going to be totally honest here. I just don't. I'm not feeling the Bruins right now, but the Buffaloes, they don't normally win the Pac-12. I think they can definitely come away here and win it this year, though.
Yeah, I am going to go Oregon for this one. So not top of the conference, not quite the top of the conference, almost there, but Definitely a team you always see represent the Pac-12 well in the tournament. I think they make a run, and we see the neon jerseys winning the Pac-12. So that takes us now to the Patriot League. Who you got in the Patriot League?
So first off, shout out to the Patriot League for having one of the most confusing ways to really just level out your conference with 3 different divisions. I've never seen a conference like that. That's crazy. But I am going to go here with a team that's well known for their football programs, and that's the Navy Midshipmen here. 15-2 overall, 12-1 in the conference. Colgate is very tempting to pick as well. They're 11-1 overall for their whole entire season. However, I think the Midshipmen have what it takes to make the tournament, and I'm going to be honest here too. I think that they have the potential to be one of those 12-5 upsets or 11-6 upsets that you see.
That's exactly what I have written down too, is the Navy Midshipmen, and I agree with that take. That's what I was thinking when I picked them, is them being like a 12-5, maybe 11-6, 13-4, kind of upset. Having a great season, 15-2, 12-1 overall. And I agree. When I saw the 3 teams, I was like, how in the world does this tournament even work? You know? Like, who faces who? So, yeah, shout out to them. Fix it. So next, the Southeastern Conference, otherwise known as the SEC or the Football Conference. Where are you going here?
So a few weeks ago, I would have went with Missouri because they were on that red-hot run, and they're really even challenging Alabama up at the top. I believe they did knock Alabama off at one point in the season. But I'm not picking them, obviously, anymore. It's between Alabama and Arkansas for me. And as tempting as the Crimson Tide are to pick, the Arkansas Razorbacks are on a 7-game win streak right now, and I believe they can continue to carry that over into the SEC tournament and end up winning the tournament. And who knows, by defeating a really good Alabama team and really extending that win streak, they can find themselves sneaking into potentially having a number 2 seed in the tournament.
Yeah, I like your take, but I'm going to go Crimson Tide. Just continuing a great year all around athletics-wise. One of the most potent offenses we've ever seen in college football history. And then college basketball, they're having a great season. Top 10. I'm going Bama here. God, it would be amazing to be a student at that school. Your team just that good in 2 of the major sports. So that takes us to the Southern Conference now, as another conference where probably the top 2, maybe 3 teams really have a chance. Where are you going here?
I'm going with that 3rd team right now. It's the Furman Paladins. They've made a run to the tournament a couple of years now. They're sitting at 16-8, 10-5 in the conference. Nothing against Wofford or North Carolina Greensboro here, but I just have a feeling that Furman can make that run. And even the 4th seed here, Chattanooga, they're 18-7, 9-7 in the conference. Who knows? Maybe they can make a run, but I'm feeling Furman here. I got them winning the conference tournament.
I'm going Wofford. I'm going to give you this hint that ruins my brackets a lot. Every time I see Wofford in the bracket, for some reason I pick them. 13-4 upset, 14-3. Every time I see Wofford on a bracket, I pick them for that first win. But I'm going Wofford here to win the Southern Conference. Going with my gut. I do it in March Madness, so why not do it in the Southern Conference tournament? Go Wofford. So that takes us now to the Southern Conference. Where are you going here?
This is a great conference right here. They got 4 teams right now, all with 2 losses in conference play. I'm going to go with familiarity here. Stephen F. Austin, the Lumberjacks, have always had a great basketball program. So I just think that come tournament time, it's great to have a coach and a program with the experience of getting over the hump and winning a conference. So Lumberjacks heading back to the big dance here.
This is another team I pick every time I see them in March Madness. Stephen F. Austin is my favorite 12-5 upset pick. So I'm going Stephen F. Austin as well for this conference. And it's, again, like you said, just the being there, great coaching, and the familiarity. So that now takes us, as we're running out of conference, we go to the Southwestern Athletic Conference, or the SWAC. Where are you going?
So here in the SWAC, they have 2 undefeated teams in conference play, Prairie View A&M and Jackson State. Both of them are very capable of winning. I also think Texas Southern is very capable of winning. They've won the conference past couple seasons here. But I'm going to go Prairie View A&M here, 11-0 in conference play, 12-4 overall. and they're riding an 11-game win streak, obviously, because they've won all of their conference games. So Prairie View A&M, I got them continuing up their great trend and winning the SWAC.
It's really crazy to see that they were 1-4, and then Jackson State was 0-5 before conference play. But you don't want to go with Deion Sanders, his school. No, I'm going Prairie View A&M as well. A team that I feel like is representing the SWAC a lot. It's either them or Texas Southern, I feel like, every now and then. So I'm going to go. Southern snuck in there a few years back as well. But I'm going Prairie View A&M for this specific year. And they'll probably get around a 15 or 16 seed because of it. Summit League.
Summit League here, I think it's between both the South Dakota schools. I think that's what's going to ultimately come down to in the conference championship. But I'm going to go with the team without the state in their name, the South Dakota Coyotes, 13-10 overall, 11-4 in conference play. I just think that they are a more well-rounded basketball team than the Jackrabbits this year. So the Coyotes, they end up moving on to the big dance.
I'm going Jackrabbits here, the only team with under 10 losses, 9-3 conference record, great season overall, and I love the name Jackrabbits. So San Diego State, you're going to win the Summit League, according to me. Sunbelt, where are we going here? Another football conference.
Yeah, Sunbelt, I think it's going to come down to two teams that are in the west side of the Sunbelt. Nothing against Georgia State or Coastal Carolina. They're having great seasons, but I think it's ultimately going to come down between Texas State and Louisiana Lafayette, because Louisiana Lafayette is a well-known basketball school as well. They produced Elfrid Payton. He's having a successful NBA career right now. But I'm going to go with the Bobcats here. Texas State, 18-6, 12-3 in the conference. They've just been the best team all year round. So the Bobcats, they head to the tournament.
I'm going to agree with you in the sense that it's going to be from the West, but I'm going to go Louisiana Lafayette. School kind of got the short end of the stick in football. I think they get a little bit of a revenge here, winning their conference, getting a conference championship nonetheless. Sunbelt champions, the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana Lafayette. I love it. I love it. Here we go. West Coast conferences. We're down to our final two conferences. Where are we going here?
Yeah, there's no way I can even argue this, man. Gonzaga's just going to run away with it. I don't think it's going to be very close. So, yeah, we're just going with the Bulldogs here. End of discussion for me.
Gonzaga. I mean, when you're talking about a team that could win it all, let alone their conference. The WAC, or the Western Athletic Conference. Where are we going here?
So this school just made it to Division I, I want to say about 5 or 6 years ago, and they've always been very intriguing. I believe they had it was one of the Phoenix Suns greats, either Tom Chambers or Dan Marley was their head coach when they first got into Division I. I can't really remember exactly who it was right now, but right now their head coach is Bryce Drew. He's had great success at Vanderbilt and at Valparaiso. That's for the Grand Canyon Antelopes. They are on top of the WAC right now. They are 14-5, 8-2 in the conference. And when you have a veteran leader like Bryce Drew, who's been to the tournament time and time again, I think that's what gets them the edge here in the tournament and has them avoid the upset. So Grand Canyon, welcome to the tournament for the very first time.
I'm going the same way. Grand Canyon University. I have gotten 5,000 emails from this school just because I accidentally clicked on their ad once when I was applying for colleges. And it's really annoyed me, but I'm going to look past it. I'm picking Grand Canyon for the Western Athletic Conference as well. And that takes us to the end of our conference predictions. We'll come back next week before we go on the podcast, and we'll see who made more right picks or who has the bragging rights as far as conference champion predictions goes. But that will take us to our final segment, which is the NBA. And obviously, we're not really going to talk about the past couple weeks, I guess. We'll give an update. Philadelphia remains at the top of the East. Brooklyn not too far behind. Milwaukee not too far behind. The Knicks having somewhat of a good season. Over in the West, though, Utah holding strong at the top spot. Phoenix moves into the second spot. And then LA rounding out the top four. But all-star game festivities are this upcoming weekend. And what that means, Jacobs, great dunks, lots of points, and absolutely no defense. Will be played for an entirety of a weekend. So We're going to make our picks now for the All-Star festivities. We'll start with the dunk contest. We got Obi Toppin from the New York Knicks, Anthony Simmons from Portland, and Cassius Stanley from Indiana. Who do you see taking the dunk contest?
So I think it's going to be between Cassius Stanley and Anthony Simons, honestly, because not a knock on Obi Toppin at all, but Brendan and I were even talking about it yesterday. He just does not have that much leaping ability. I want to say it's just because of his size is really what gets him all the hype for his dunks. I just don't feel like he can get that creative side, but I'm going to go with Cassius Stanley because not many people know about Cassius Stanley, but he was a freshman last year at Duke, the year after Zion Williamson left, so that's obviously huge shoes to fill. However, Coach K even came out and said Cassius Stanley has more bounce than Zion Williamson, who we need to see him in the dunk contest at one point. And there was talks that he might have gotten in this year, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. I would have loved to see personally, too, Anthony Edwards in this contest because he has a dunk of the year right now over poor Yuto Watanabe for the Toronto Raptors. I mean, I'm sorry for that, man. He's going to be on posters for the rest of his life. But Cassius Stanley, he's got bounce. He might not get a lot of playing time in the NBA, but he's going to win the dunk contest here.
Okay. I agree with you. Like you said, not a lot of playing time. A lot of people don't even know who he is, but when he's on the court, I mean, you see it in live action. If you could do it in live action, you can do it when you have all the time in the world and no defense. So I'm taking Cassius Stanley as well for the dunk contest. Pains me not to take Obi Toppin, but like you said, the athleticism honestly is just not there. A big man, we don't see big men win it a lot either. Obviously, every big man can dunk, but I think the last true big man we saw win it was probably Dwight Howard, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was probably, if you want to call Blake Griffin a traditional big man, probably him too. But yeah, Dwight Howard was really the last guy that was super creative because not a knock on Blake Griffin, but I've never personally been a big fan of his win in the dunk contest because all he did, he jumped over a car, sure, but he jumped over the smaller part of the car. So it wasn't like he went.
Oh, sorry, Jacob. He didn't jump over the big part of the car. No, I'm kidding.
But my boy Aaron Gordon, he's been screwed out of 2 dunk contests. I don't care what people say.
I agree.
He, in my opinion, has had 2 of my favorite dunk contest performances ever, and he lost both times. So I'm very sad he's not in this dunk contest, but mad respect for the guy.
Why would he ever join again? I mean,
exactly.
He's gotten dipped twice, but no, Dwight Howard probably the last true center, honestly, that's won the dunk contest. So I'm going to go Cassius Stanley as well. That takes us to the 3-point contest. Man, is this a contest. Devin Booker from Phoenix, Jaylen Brown from Boston, Stephen Curry from Golden State, Zach LaVine from Chicago, Donovan Mitchell from Utah, and Jason Tatum also from Boston. Who is winning your 3-point contest?
Well, I was honestly surprised that 2 guys from Boston ended up making the 3-point contest here, especially because they're both all-stars too. So I was personally thinking I was going to see Buddy Hield in here because he won the contest last year, and I think he would have had a good shot at repeating. But I think this is all about streakiness, and there's really 3 guys that are very streaky in here, and that's Devin Booker, Steph Curry, and Zach LaVine. I don't think Steph's going to end up winning it, so I think it's going to be between D-Book and LaVine, and I'm going to go with Devin Booker since he has won it before. And honestly, just the disrespect for Devin Booker is still so real, even though the Suns are second right now in the West. He wasn't initially an all-star here. The coaches had to vote him in as a injury replacement once again. So maybe that lights a fire under him to really win this contest once again.
Yeah, I'm going Steph Curry, just straight up. I don't know why I have a feeling. I mean, obviously, it's the fact that the dude can make a shot from anywhere in this world. I mean, he could be in Alliance, Ohio, and hit a shot in Golden State. But I just have a feeling that he gets it again, a 3-point contest. But I do agree, Booker is my safety pick. If it's not Curry, Booker's my second bet. I don't see either guy from Boston, or I don't see Mitchell winning it either. LaVine, I think, has a chance, but I think it's ultimately between Curry and Booker for me. So I'm going to go Curry on this one. And now the skills challenge. I love just the mix of guys they always get for this. You get your flashy guard, your assist leader, then you get a big man like Nikola Vucevic in there. But Vucevic from Orlando is in there. Sabonis from Indiana, Julius Randle from New York, who's having a absolutely wonderful season. Chris Paul from Phoenix, Luka Doncic from Dallas, and then Robert Covington from Portland will be the competitors for the skills challenge. Who do you got?
Well, I'm watching one of the competitors right now, Domantas Sabonis. I think he has a good shot at winning it. And before I get in on it, I know this has nothing to do with this, but I thought I'd just share this. I'm watching the Cavs and Pacers right now as we're doing this podcast, and the Cavs are trailing by 4 in the fourth quarter. But TJ McConnell right now has 14 points, 13 assists, and 9 steals, and he's 7 of 7 from the floor right now. So just an amazing game. But back to the point, I think Sabonis has a good shot at winning it, but I don't think he's going to end up winning it. Julius Randle, for me, is going to win it because the big men, ever since they've thrown the big men in the skills challenge, I don't know what it is. We saw Karl Anthony Towns win one year. I believe Kristaps Porzingis won it one year too. Just always these big men come out and they show they actually have more skill than just staying underneath the hoop. So Julius Randle, to me, he's just having a great year. He's going to put the cherry on top right now in this first half for him, and he's going to win the skills challenge.
I love the pick. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Chris Bosh win it as well? Or was that the team relay?
I think it was a relay type thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was right before the skills challenge was a thing.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was derived from. But my two guys I had listed were Luka just because he can do it all, and Julius Randle just because I'm falling in love with the guy this season. I'm going to go Doncic just because I feel like that man can hit, if he's wide open, can hit any shot. I mean, he doesn't even have to be wide open. The buzzer beaters he's hit these past couple of seasons blow my mind. But bang, bang, Luka Doncic wins the skills challenge. Had to throw it in there. But that takes us to last call, Jacob. And here in Alliance, Ohio, the weather is warming up. I was outside cleaning my car today. I played a little bit of basketball on the blacktop before this podcast. I dropped a couple buckets on some friends' heads, leading scorer for my team on 3 of the 4 games. But what is your favorite spring activity? The weather gets warmer. What are you going to? I have a feeling, obviously, we can agree on golf is a go-to. But other than golf, because that's the obvious pick, we've talked about that throughout this podcast in the first 15 episodes. So for 16, we'll leave golf out of it. That's always going to be a go-to when the weather gets warm. But other than golf, what are you doing in the spring that's fun for you?
Well, you kind of just said it, Will. I like to shoot hoops a lot, too.
Okay.
I played basketball while I was a kid. I just loved it. And then also, too, I just personally now, especially being up here at Mount, I just like going on long walks because this campus is so incredibly beautiful. So just walking around campus, walking around the Alliance community, like just going on nice long walks or really shooting hoops, I would say that those are probably my favorite things to do outside other than golf when the weather gets nice.
Love it. Obviously, other than golf, basketball is one of my big ones. I'm okay with playing inside, but there's something about playing on the blacktop outside that makes basketball that much more fun, and today was really, really enjoyable for me. I'm glad I got to do it. We'll have to get some pickup going among the sports team here. On the hoops out by Miller. No, for me, it's basketball. I love playing cornhole as well. Cornhole is one of my favorite things. That's more summer, I guess, than spring. That's when you start seeing the tournaments pop up. But cornhole is a really fun activity for me. And then I just love driving with my windows down. Especially now that I have my long hair. I mean, I've always enjoyed just driving, windows down, music blaring. But when you have long hair and it's blowing in the wind, you feel amazing. So I'm going to go with those are a couple of my favorite spring activities as the weather starts getting warmer into the summer. And now, obviously, we talked about spring training's underway. There was an argument among my friends about this the other day, so that's why this popped up on our last call. What's your go-to? The Indians have a dollar dog night on a Friday night, usually incorporates fireworks with it, or they have Shane Bieber bobblehead. So, stadium giveaway or dollar dog night? What's bringing you to the ballpark?
I mean, it's just 2 different takes, if that makes any sense. So, At a baseball game, I would say since I'm not as big a baseball fan as I am other sports, I would say I'd probably go dollar dog night because that's just the foodie in me. I love to eat.
Okay.
Like, I will eat literally anything. So if you give me dollar hot dogs, I'm just going to go crazy on them. But if we're at an NBA arena, or if we're at an NFL stadium and it's in between those, I'm definitely going with the sports memorabilia stuff because that's also a large part why I would go to Cavs games as a kid too, because they'd always be giving away, the LeBron James collector's bobbleheads or Daniel Boobie Gibson, I have a couple of those. Mo Williams, Antoine Jameson. Like, I got all these bobbleheads just from going to Cavs games, and so that's just the fan in me, I would say. If I was more of a baseball fan, I would probably go with the giveaways too, but at a baseball game, I'd go Dollar Dog Nights. Probably any other sport, though, I would go giveaways.
I'm not gonna lie. There's something about eating a ballpark hot dog in an MLB stadium, and I agree with that. But I gotta go stadium giveaway. On the shelf behind me, you'll see probably 30 Indians bobbleheads, maybe 10 Cavs, and then other sports incorporated here and there. But I'm a big bobblehead collector. I also love the free jerseys. I know they're cheap, but I just like getting them. And because it's always something you can throw on if you're just needing to rep the tribe or something like that. But I agree. There's something about a hot dog for $1 that just hits different. It tastes better. It's $1. Yeah, that's what makes it taste better. You're not paying $5 for it. You're paying $1. You take that bite, and you're like, this didn't break my bank account.
Exactly. I like you mentioned that free jersey, too, because I actually went to an Indians game where they were giving out free jerseys. I got a Nick Swisher one. So,
hey!
I mean, back in the
baby.
day, Nick Swisher. Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Ohio himself, Nick Swisher.
Yep.
But that is it for us here on RaiderZone. Episode 16 is in the books now. As always, we thank everyone that does listen to this on YouTube via Studio M. For Jacob Butar, I'm Will Brienza, and we love you all. And as always, keep on watching sports.